We're here because free speech is under attack. We're here because people are being convinced that socialism works. We're here because people are being judged guilty until proven innocent. We are fighting back with facts. This is not a safe zone, so buckle up, Buttercup. This is the raw, naked truth.
Israel kills the Hezbollah leader. Helene devastates the southeast. Kerry stands against the First Amendment, and more. Welcome to the Raw Naked Truth. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin, and here's the news you need to know. Israel killed Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah with a massive airstrike on Beirut's southern suburbs on Friday, flattening part of a neighborhood to eliminate the cleric who led the group for 3 decades and built it into a fearsome foe. The strike was Israel's most aggressive move yet in 2 weeks of elaborate intelligence operations, targeted killings, and bombardments aimed at stopping the U.S.-designated terrorist group from attacking across the Lebanese border into Israel. Nasrallah's death is an enormous blow not only to the group he led, but also to its main backer, Iran, and the network of aligned militias that Tehran has built across the Middle East to confront Israel. It is also the strongest signal yet that Hezbollah has been penetrated by Israeli intelligence. Senior officials from Hezbollah and Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps were also at the site, according to people familiar with the matter. Israel's military said the strike also killed Ali Karaki, a Hezbollah commander whom Israel targeted earlier last week. The Israeli Air Force also launched airstrikes Sunday against infrastructure in western Yemen that the military said was used by the Houthis in response to a recent ballistic missile attacks by the Iran-backed terrorists. It was only the second ever Israeli strike in Yemen. The first was in July after a drone hit Tel Aviv, killing a man in his apartment. Israeli special forces have been carrying out small targeted raids into southern Lebanon, gathering intelligence and probing ahead of a possible broader ground incursion that could come as soon as this week, according to people familiar with the matter. The raids, which have included entering Hezbollah's tunnels located along the border, have occurred recently as well as over the past months, part of the broader effort by Israel to degrade Hezbollah's capabilities along the border dividing Israel and Lebanon. The southeastern U.S. began a huge cleanup and recovery effort on Sunday, and the death toll climbed towards 100 after Hurricane Helene knocked out power for millions, destroyed roads and bridges, and caused dramatic flooding from Florida to Virginia. The storm's winds, rain, and storm surge killed at least 90 people in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, and Virginia, according to a Reuters tally of state and local officials. Officials feared more bodies would be discovered. With cell phone towers down across the region, hundreds of people had yet to make contact with loved ones and were listed as unaccounted for. Damage estimates range from $15 billion to more than $100 billion, according to insurers and forecasters. Water systems, communications, and critical transportation routes were all affected. President Biden on Thursday pledged another $8 billion in security aid to Ukraine, just 1 day after Russian President Vladimir Putin suggested he might change Moscow's rules when it comes to its nuclear doctrine. In a proposal to the Russian Security Council on Wednesday, the Kremlin chief suggested that any attack by a non-nuclear nation that has the backing of a nuclear-armed nation could be seen as a joint attack, a move that could have a resounding impact on the war in Ukraine. The comments were issued ahead of a meeting between Ukrainian President Zelensky and President Biden on Thursday, in which Zelensky went over a victory plan and appealed for long-range strike capabilities. Former Secretary of State John Kerry recently spoke at a World Economic Forum panel and lamented the First Amendment for being a roadblock to countering online misinformation and disinformation about climate change. Responding to an audience question about climate misinformation, Kerry described how social media makes it difficult to form consensus and said the First Amendment makes it difficult to weed out disinformation online. But look, if people go to only one source and the source they go to is sick and has an agenda and they are putting out disinformation, our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to hammer it out of existence, Kerry said. What we need is to win the ground, win the right to govern by hopefully winning enough votes that you're free to be able to implement change, he added, while acknowledging that different people have other visions for change. SpaceX on Saturday launched a Falcon rocket from Cape Canaveral, Florida, with 2 crew members on board to deliver the Dragon capsule to the International Space Station that will bring back the astronauts stranded by their troubled Boeing Starliner next year. In June, NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams launched on the Starliner, which suffered thruster problems and helium leaks, leaving the space agency to conclude returning them to Earth in the capsule after what was supposed to be an 8-day mission was too risky. The crewless Starliner eventually landed in New Mexico earlier this month, while Wilmore and Williams remained on the space station. NASA astronaut Nick Hague and Russian cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov launched from the Kennedy Space Center on Saturday's mission with 2 empty seats on Dragon that will bring Wilmore and Williams home in February. That's the Raw Naked Truth. You can catch every episode of The Raw Naked Truth at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech. We'll see you next time.